Hey, everybody, you're listening to and watching the Comic Book Bears podcast. I'm Bill Zanowitz.
I'm Bryan Pittard.
And I'm Steve Morey.
And we are your hairy, heavy homos that talk about comic books, but you don't have to be a hairy, heavy homo to listen in, or in this case, stream in. And we will be going round the table here. Just think of it as a table, though it's three separate guys in three separate locations. The virtual table, and we'll be talking about something that we've recently read that we've really dug. We have a little bit of news to get through. I'm just wondering how you guys are doing right now, first of all, because we've had a couple of stressful weeks, all of us, and
it's been
couple.
a journey.
Yeah,
a couple months. Stressful months.
Right off the gate, David Toby. Babes podcasts, am I right?
Well,
you are right.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah.
So it's, as I was telling you guys before, I'm a little more relaxed than I've been in the last few weeks. I mean, there was one show, man, you couldn't get a jackass up, you couldn't get a jackhammer up my ass with a, I mean, it was just, I was so wound up.
Well,
and, and I'm probably gonna get a comment about a jackhammer up my ass now. But I'm a bit more relaxed. What
category is that?
I did deal with something really weird today. It's the first time I've ever dealt with a gay bear QAnon follower. Yeah. So I had posted something, because I think most people agree that are within my orbit that no one really gives a shit about Hunter Biden. No. And I received these comments. Someone attacked my friend Sue. It was all the same guy. And one of the posts was one of those things where it was all the Democrats were working with the Russians and Hillary eats children. And this is somebody who's been in, was a Facebook friend. And at some point over the last year and a half, they fell into all this, so it's just like goodbye. Yeah. But I've never dealt with a gay QAnon person.
It is an absolute rabbit hole of nonsense. If you really read into QAnon's all of the deep dark conspiracies that it contains, and this is the problem, is they're not all interdependent. So some people can just dabble their toes in it and kind of just go, oh, Democrats are kidnapping kids or something. Epstein. And then you'll get the people who go all the way down into the center of the earth and believe in the fucking lizard people. I mean, it's a whole range. So.
Yeah.
Oh,
man.
It's just a clearinghouse of every conspiracy over the past 150 years. And it's, like you said, if you go down the rabbit hole, you're going to hit all of the best, the top pop hits, the top 10 chart toppers. Since the Protocols of Zion, literally, it just goes all the way down, and it would make a very interesting kind of LARP if people didn't take it seriously. Yeah. It surely could be just an online BBS LARP situation. If
it needs to be a text-based adventure game like Zork.
Yeah, it is. That's exactly what it is. Yeah. It's a text-based adventure game that went way out of hand.
But I just wish they'd box it as, Trailer Park Scientology, just a little box.
If you're gonna do Trailer Park Scientology, have you guys been watching The Vow on HBO?
Yeah, no, but I know the entire story, and there's an excellent podcast on it from about 2 years ago. I know the entire story about Rhaenyra and NXIVM.
And Catherine
eventually will watch it. Yeah,
I need to listen to that podcast because I am all in on the NXIVM crazy right now. And if QAnon is Trailer Park Scientology, I feel like the NXIVM is yoga spin class colonic cleanse Scientology.
I thought it was more industrial park Scientology.
Oh.
It's business park, because didn't the guy
in New Jersey industrial park is business park.
What was it? It was consumers.
Oh yeah,
Did they show Did they show the commercial with Ernest Borgnine as part of the vow?
No.
They did not.
Oh,
They did
or
not.
there's one with Ernest Borgnine. There's one with Eddie Albert. Yeah, you gotta search those.
I'll look it up. I'll look it up because they did talk about it because they had like a video of Raniere back when he must have been in his like 20s or 30s or something when he was doing the Consumer's Workspace or Connection or whatever the hell it's called, and they're still around, by the way. They are still very much around. Jason has actually worked in buildings where they've had conventions, where they've had these meet and greet kind of things.
Really?
So they're still around, and not at all related to Nexium, but the same kind of, engagement and like rabid, I am all in, my entire personality is built around this kind of thing. Like it still exists.
I mean, that's an extension of Avon and Amway,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. But
because you had to be that, especially in the days where it was door to door, you had to be wired that way. So
yeah, you had to believe in it so much, because if you didn't, oh God, death of a salesman is your life.
I'm going to reveal something very 70s. My father used to co-run. It wasn't exactly EST, but it was transactional analysis sessions. Very 70s thing. Very, very 70s. And the woman that he ran it with, Jane, came out of Avon and Encyclopedia Britannica, and she was that way. It was like always, every phone call is a gateway to another sale, that kind of thing. And it was really, and my father was so much more laid back, and it was really wild watching the dynamic between the two of them. So it almost was like, I don't want to say good cop, bad cop, but one had the excitement level and the other one was very practical. And
I'm really concerned about
because my mother was just like, I can't stand these people in my house. I can't stand them. There was an old Saturday Night Live skit of an encounter group, and one of the members in the encounter group was Marlon Brando's character from The Godfather, and there was a stewardess that the whole time played by Ring Newman, like, Vito, you're blocking, trying to. And my mother started doing that imitation for one of the women that was coming to the sessions.
That's awesome.
70s were amazing.
Speaking of SNL, did any of you watch this past week's Bill Burr? Is that his name?
No, because he's boring.
He was funny in sketches, I think.
Yeah.
A little bit. It worked. But then his monologue, like everything I saw was just...
Yeah.
His monologue was
bored by him.
That's his stand-up. That's his stand-up style. So like he also has a podcast where that's what he does. He rants for like an hour on his own. Like that's what he does. He like, again, he's a character, but his stand-up, that's what he did in his monologue.
Old man ranting. What did you think of Jim Carrey's Biden in the last 2 weeks?
Yeah,
I didn't see this week's. The only thing I saw from this week's was the vice presidential debate skit.
Okay, so then when so the first one when he did Biden versus Alex, not Alex, what's his name?
Alec Baldwin.
Alec Baldwin. Trump. It was really great, like really strong.
Yeah.
But then this week they went into this weird Jeff Goldblum tangent, which was still pretty funny, but not
where he was the fly.
Yeah,
like he was the fly who showed up, and then Herman Cain was another fly. He was like, I've been reincarnated as this fly, and it was very weird. But Kamala Harris, obviously, Maya Rudolph is
killing it.
Wonderful.
What'd you think of the weekend update? Kate McKinnon.
Kate McKinnon having sort of like a mini breakdown. I love that because I love Kate McKinnon.
I love her, and that was perfect. And I don't know if it was planned, but either way, it was amazing.
Yeah. How was the Jack White segment?
I haven't listened or watched those, but everybody who I respect music-wise said that he killed it. Like he just
Well, the fact that he came in at such short notice and just went out and played. I mean, that was pretty cool of him to do.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Sorry.
I have a collection of wigs and characters. This is how I'm getting through this, Colin. Sorry, just keep the kid in this point.
So I was about to say, we've tackled SNL and Nexium, 70s transactional analysis, QAnon. So where's the comic books? All right.
Next.
Well, hey, I've got one more thing with Bill Burr. So, Bill Burr was featured heavily in this week's The Comedy Store documentary episode series, where he talked a lot about what it was like in his generation of the Comedy Store people. Because he kind of, he was after the 70s one. He came in the 80s after the strike and all that. It was fascinating listening to him talk about what it was like working for Mitzi later on.
Did he mention that being a transition from when it was all based around television appearances to television sitcoms?
That's what this whole episode was about. Because the last episode kind of, of course, ended on a down note with the death of Freddie Prinze, and that kind of era. But then, of course, after the strike, it turned to, it wasn't so much getting on the Tonight Show; it was getting a sitcom, and a comedy special. Because it was the era of cable, so if you had a comedy special on Showtime or whatever, like this is what you were working towards. And Robin Williams was pretty heavily featured, Whoopi Goldberg. And of course, Richard Pryor was a big part of it because that was Richard Pryor's era. It was in that late 70s through the 80s. He would pop up at the Comedy Store because he would go in anytime that he had a special or that he was working a special. He would work through all of his set material at the Comedy Store. He would just basically take up residence for a month or two. So very cool stuff.
Cool.
I recommend it. Showtime.
Okay, so one bit of news that came out of comic books was the announcement, or at least the clarified announcement regarding future tense. What the fuck is it called? Future tense? Future. What the hell is it called?
Well, it previously, formerly known as, I guess, sort of 5G. It's what that morphed into, and I want to say it's future tense.
I want to say future
tense.
Future state.
Future state. There we go.
It's called future state. How to get it right? Because we would have just been going to future tense through the whole thing.
Future tense.
So basically, what DC is doing is they're going to take a 2-month sabbatical from the regular publications, and there's a storyline. There's some preview of that in the comic that I don't have by me, the Detective Comics 1027. So it seems that a lot of the threads that were initially part of the 5G initiative are morphed into this this particular initiative. It is a bit reminiscent of Convergence in that the regular books are stopping for 2 months, and we're going to get a series of miniseries and one-shots where we see future versions of the characters that we know. So there is a Superman, but it's the John Kent Superman. It's not Clark Kent. We have a person of color Batman. We have a person of color Wonder Woman as well. So these characters that are effectively what would have been the next generation. And apparently there are some threads that will continue into DC Comics afterwards. I was really surprised today, and I don't want to name names because these are people whose opinions I really treasure and who know their stuff about comics. But I'm really tired of the complaining about company-wide crossovers. At this point in the game, like renumbering, it's just something you have to accept that's going to be there. It's basically proven that these things work on a sales basis. And I can understand the frustration because I think a lot of the crossovers that we've been treated to, I would say, for the past 25 years have been hit or miss, many miss. Sometimes it's financially prohibitive to get everything. I understand those arguments left and right. I completely get it. But part of the conceit and of, the fun of being a comic book fan is the interconnectivity. And I'm just so sick of this belly aching about this. If you are pissed off because there's a break in the action in your regular series for a crossover event, if it's a skilled writer and a skilled editor, there will not be that sense of a sense of a break of momentum. It will keep going. We don't always get that. I understand that, but at this point in the game, just accept that they're going to be there. And I like, again, I'm coming from a position like there was nothing I loved more than as bad as Secret Wars 2 was. That you had the Beyonder being able to pop up into anything. Crisis and Legends, I think, were excellent crossovers. Millennium was wonderfully structured. It just stunk. But the structure of it was great. That it was just 2 months. This is what was happening, and it was affecting everything, no matter where the time frame was. It affected the Legion and affected the present day books. There's good and bad crossovers out there, but just accept you're going to have them every once in a while. And I don't understand that how bitter people get about this. It's like it's not going away, dude.
So we think this is what became of the 5G stuff.
5G. Yeah, I imagine there was a lot of art that was commissioned, a lot of stories that were commissioned. They have an inventory of work, and we paid for it. We may as well make it work somehow. And I also think with Marie Javins, with her new position with DC, this gives her an opportunity to blow through this inventory in a sensible manner. There's some top-notch people associated with that. The Mark Russell and Pew Tenet Lex, whatever the hell that's called, that looks amazing. Again, John Ridley is a very big name to have involved with comic books right now, and since there were these rather drastic and sudden editorial changes at DC, I think this is a perfect opportunity for them to get a bit of a breather and to have a proper redirect instead of something that's piecemeal.
Well, and it comes at a good time too, because as we know, this year there have been several titles that have ended. So we have a lot fewer titles at DC than we have in previous years. Mm-hmm. So there's not a lot of momentum because there aren't a lot of titles that are have these ongoing storylines as much. And of course, Batman's just finishing up with the Joker War, which was huge. You have I think Wonder Woman's getting ready to go into
Endless Winter.
Something, Endless Winter, and that's going to probably incorporate Justice League as well, and
it's going to incorporate a lot of stuff. I mean, that's basically, I think, just late November and December.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just a couple months, which is all they need.
Yeah, it's very
all they need. And of course we've had the sort of the interesting, momentum of death metal, Dark Knights, that thing that's been kind of happening. Not crossing over with a lot. I mean, Justice League, I think, is pretty much it. But it's the one shots and the tie-ins and all that stuff. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the only event.
Yeah, and with the competition, we probably should mention King in Black.
There's speaking of company-wide crossovers that people get pissed off about, King in Black's going to cost you a couple, like $300-400 when all said and done. Given how many issues and how many tie-ins there are with that.
Yeah.
So for people complaining about, all their other books kind of being put on hold for a couple of months and then having, these minis and one-shots replacing them. I mean, King in Black. And then, of course, we're going to talk about it, Across the Swords or X of Swords or 10 of Swords.
10 of Swords. 10 of Swords.
It's
not a sixes situation. It's 10 of Swords.
Well, it's Cross of Swords.
10 of Swords.
Cross of Swords. It's an X for the number 10.
I saw the panel.
But it's cross. But yeah, I mean, like, that one's, how many parts is it? 22. It's got 22 issues. So you're basically tied into buying every single X book, with the exception of Juggernaut, which isn't even technically an X book. But, you have to buy every single one of them.
No, you don't have to buy every single one of them.
Well, if you're a completionist, if you want the story,
if you want the full story, of course
how much Exactly.
Well,
like how much I have to buy.
If you're a
in order to follow
Wolverine
the story.
fan, you have to buy Wolverine and X-Force.
The way
Well,
they're doing the numbering and the way they're dovetailing one story into the next, and we're going to talk about this, I think, more in depth. Like, Ten of Swords is pretty, like, you got to kind of go part to part. It's harder to pull out which ones you want to focus on. But you're not wrong. You could skip, like, the two I think we're going to talk about the most. And
and still be okay. You could hit the high points and still be okay, because there are those one-shot chapters that are coming, that started already with the beginning.
I've been not doing my job here, so I don't know who this is. Is this someone you know?
That's
Steve?
my aunt.
Oh,
that's my Aunt Marion. Hello.
Hello, Aunt Marion. Nice to see you on your podcast.
Thank you for joining.
And of course, Caleb, even though he's probably not, he's doing his thing.
Talk about me like I'm not here.
He's not here. But,
I don't know if Caleb was a crossover complainer.
Oh,
I don't know if he is. Let's see.
So what he says.
Oh yeah,
let's see what he says here.
What I do miss are the smaller inter-editorial office crossovers as opposed to line-wide. That being said, go for the ride or don't. There is no gun to anybody's head to buy, and we live in the age of Wikipedia.
Exactly. I mean, and that's what we've been seeing this year has been mostly the inter-editorial crossovers. The Batman books all having a Batman, event. The the X-Men books having an X-Men event, and it's Ten of Swords is only X-Men. We're not getting the Captain America tie-in for Ten of Swords, or where's Thor's entry into this. It's just X-Men. So like those are your choices when it comes to crossovers. You have the specific one where you're just basically tied into the books that you're probably already reading, and therefore it shouldn't be too bad, except for the fact, and I do want to mention this, the Ten of Swords books, some of them are an extra $1 or $2.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. You get a couple more pages.
The bigger page count, which really threw me for one book that I was reading. Was like, isn't this fucking thing gonna get over?
Yeah, like what?
I had to have passed 20 pages at this point, and especially when you read it digitally, you just don't have that sense.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. But in this case, you might end up paying more than you normally would by just reading the books within that line that you enjoy. But you're not forced to buy every book that the publisher puts out, or you have Secret Wars, or you have what was that? What was that one several years ago? Was it Future's End? I think with New 52, you had the weekly book on top of all
that
of the
awful Earth 2 book. The Future's End Earth 2. Oh, that was so awful. That made me so sad.
That made me so sad because
that was one of the best series they had with the New 52 when it started.
Exactly.
It wasn't one of the initial 52, but it was like about 8 months later.
Yeah, it was the 8 months.
It started off with a bang. It was so good, and it just turned into this it was just relentlessly depressing.
Yep. Everybody dies. Oh, and then the planet dies. And then we go to a planet.
Don't be happy because you're on a dead Earth.
Yeah, and now we're on an Earth that's just crust.
I'll tell you one thing. There is one thing that came from that has legs, and that's Gay Alan Scott.
True, very true. And now it's going to be, as has been announced recently, that is the version of Alan Scott we'll be getting in the HBO Max series.
Oh, since we were talking about announcements, this is almost a crossover. This is almost seamless. Not quite. I failed. But anyway, last weekend would have been New York Comic Con, and they did have a series of panels online. And nice to have that on the background while you're working. So I caught a bunch of them. I don't know if you guys caught any. Really? There's some stuff you definitely like, Bryan. And the one that actually is great, the Smallville reunion, that's hosted by Garrett Wang from Voyager, who's been very close friends with some of the cast members for a long time because of conventions. It's very much like the Making the Sausage kind of panel. It's definitely worth your time. Definitely worth
where they have to completely.
Yeah, just go to the NYCC YouTube page, and they're all still there. I don't know if they're gonna stay there forever, but as of now, all 4 days of panels are there.
That's great.
Of the content that they had, I completely am into Hellstrom now. Hellstrom looks fantastic.
Really?
Yeah.
Starts tomorrow.
MODOK was a bit like it's not nearly as funny as it thinks it is, from what I saw. You know,
I love MODOK and Patton Oswalt.
Yeah, I like Patton Oswalt a lot too. I just wasn't doing it for me. And there's the Russo brothers have that documentary series about the history of comics. No, that's not 616.
Oh,
it's about DC versus Marvel. It's called Slugfest. And they had the first issue. They had the first episode that they showed, and what they are doing is they're bringing in people for the acting sequences who are associated with comic book properties, but as real life people, and not as a real life person you would necessarily associate with that actor. So, in the debut episode, they had Brandon Routh as Joe Simon, as they were talking about the creation of Captain America. So, so they showed the entire first episode on that, and that's going to be coming.
David Toby said it's coming all out tomorrow.
That series, or
Hellstrom,
all of them.
I want to say they're just doing it all at once rather than doing it weekly.
Also, I guess I forgot about this. I think I've repressed this memory that. Bill, you have besmirched Millennium. I am
not slamming Joe Staton at all. I mean, his run on Justice Society in the 70s, for me, guarantees him as a Hall of Famer. And also Steve Englehart's a great writer. It just didn't work. It just didn't work.
David clarified Hellstrom is out tomorrow.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, because Slugfest, I thought they hadn't announced the date yet. But if it's all of them, I guess I gotta take advantage of one of those Hulu freebies.
Yeah, I haven't been watching much Hulu lately. Yeah. So that's I'll watch that.
Yeah.
Did they ever wrap up the other stuff like Cloak and Dagger? I got
and Runaways. Yeah.
It all wrapped up.
Cloak and Dagger got their and now it's all going to be. It's all actually on Disney Plus now too. But it is all.
It's
completed.
All
they.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got to finish all that at some point.
Runaways got their.
Three
seasons, and Cloak and Dagger 2.
Got 2.
Cloak and Dagger, I think.
Also, Cloak and Dagger also sort of wrapped up in Runaways.
Oh,
they came in. Just pretty cool. Just like in the comics.
And as the other totally MCU stuff, I guess WandaVision is probably the next one on the horizon.
Yeah,
those vinyl pops are cute as hell. Did you see those?
I've seen the picture. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Enough rambling. Let's talk about the comic books. Let's go over to Steve first. Steve, tell us about a book you're reading that you're digging.
Well, I know we're all going to be talking about Ten of Swords, but real quick, I did want to talk about Penultimateman. So Ahoy Comics, as you know, we love here at Comic Book Bears. It's such a great little publisher who could, when you buy a book, you don't only just get the comic, you also get several pages of prose and essays and stories and poems and recipes or whatever from some great contributors in the back, some of whom we know. But the latest offering is Penultimateman. Penultimateman was introduced last year, or maybe it was earlier this year. I don't know. Time warp. Who knows? Time. In a special anthology issue, and it was just a quick little blurb about I think it was about 9 pages about Penultimateman, who is so named because he is from the 910th century, from a future where you have the ultimate humans, the Ultimans. And he basically was a throwback. So he ended up being not as good as the Ultimates, the ultimate humans. And so because he was so ugly, hideous, and deformed and primitive, they sent him back to the past, exiled him basically, where he, fights for the force of good. He's, an amazing superhero, does some amazing things, but is really down on himself because, he's just not good enough. He's just, he might be saving everybody and he might have powers that go way beyond, any other superhero that could exist, but he's just not good enough. And he's just mopey, which is very interesting to have like a nearly all powerful superhuman character whose biggest weakness is, the fact that he has no self-esteem in how he goes and lives his life. And he is supported by his penultimate droid, his sort of his robot version that can take his place in a pinch. His secret identity is a really nebbishy FBI agent that nobody likes, that looks nothing like him. It basically, he takes the whole Clark Kent thing and just completely changes his body type into, somebody that looked like it came out of a 1970s cop show. And that's his secret identity. And again, he gets crapped on all the time, but it's a wonderful book. And this first issue, you get to see him at work. You get to see him go back to the future, the far future, to save that civilization. And then in the process, he comes back, continues to mope, and notices something, or at least his robot sidekick has changed his status for as a superhero. It's actually done things that Penultimateman probably should have been doing if he wasn't so down on himself all the time and thinking that he was a load of crap. I love it. Some of the best, of course, there's always some really great content in the back, the letters page, and and obviously there aren't any letters in this first issue, but the editor's notes and all of that are always a great read. And of course the great little sort of 1 and 2 page prose things in the back are wonderful too. So the writer on this was Tom Pryor. Did I pronounce that right?
Right.
Tom Pryor, drawn by Alan Robinson with Lee Luffridge on colors and Rob Steen on letters. Definitely pick it up if you have a chance. Mm-hmm. It's a great quick read. A lot of content that's just fun to read. And the characters are a great concept. So check it out. Penultimateman by Hoy.
It's also worth mentioning that Tom Pryor is the publisher for the imprint. And if you want Tom Pryor writing really intricate, smart superhero stories, while JSA, the Jeff Johns JSA was being published, concurrently there was an Our Man series that Tom Pryor wrote, which is smart and clever and really worth your time. And I'm looking forward to this. It is in my next box. And if you are interested in sampling it prior to then, the story that you had mentioned, Steve, that appeared in their anthology called Steel Cage, you can get that on Comixology for free as Penultimateman number 0. That's free, so you can sample it that way. And the artist?
It's great.
The artist?
The artist is Robinson. It's Alan Robinson.
Very good stuff.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. It's just a beautiful book. It's a lot of fun. Great to pick up.
Okay. Well, I guess we're going to throw it over to Bryan, and this is going to take up the majority of our episode, I think, this discussion. We are in the midst of the Cross of Swords crossover, or 10 over. And so, Bryan, why don't you tell us about where we're at in the X-Men world?
Oh, man. I don't even remember where we left off. Did we
covered Creation, and we covered X Factor, and I read X Factor, and I totally agree with you. What a garbage issue that was. There were things that made no sense. I mean, Lorna's delivering these supposedly incredibly important prophecies, and they're in small print, and the pacing of the issue was so weird. Some of the dialogue is god awful. And I know you said 1 through 3 issues of that book were
fantastic.
Really good. I never got that from what I read in Ford, which I did.
Yeah, no, it's so weird because they really were good and fun and just so light and different. Mm-hmm. And then this shit, and it's like, whoa, what happened? I feel like it was like I don't know. It may have been a last minute thing. It may have been nobody did quality control, but whatever. We'll move on.
Had to put an issue somewhere where it was just nothing but exposition to get them on their way.
So you read Marauders, number, what is that? 13 from Ayala.
Mm-hmm.
Is it Victor Ayala?
No, it's Vita. It's
Vita, sorry. Oh, apologize.
Yep.
So I love this, and I hope you guys did too. I'm not on a limb here, because it is a Storm-centric story, and it is effectively Storm, or Aurora Monroe, going out to Wakanda, to retrieve what is it, the Stormbreaker?
Stormbreaker.
Which, has that been a thing before, or is that new?
It's
new.
With the 30,000 free issues of Black Panther we all received a few weeks ago, I guess we'll find out once we get reading that. I've never heard of it before. I have a feeling it probably was an invention for this, given the way that they gave you all the information you needed to know about that sword within the issue and the flashbacks. So
I mean, that's the only thing about this. The way he tells the story, or the way she tells the story, it is a lot of flashbacks, because they're trying to provide the context that a lot of people may not know, which is that Storm used to be married to Black Panther, T'Challa. So T'Challa. So I sounded, it's like challah, like bread. I'm like
challah.
I'm hungry. I haven't had
challah. The Black Panther.
So Storm goes into Wakanda and has this great relationship with all of the people there, because she was the queen for a while. And then proceeds to completely destroy those relationships when they say, you can't have our sword, because it's like, if you take it out of Wakanda, you're going to kill our society. It's going to be all this chaos. It's going to make things horrible. Oh, and by the way, T'Challa, oh my God, I can't say his name. The Black Panther will be back in like 2 days. So if you just hang out for a bit, he can at least talk to you and work it out.
Yeah.
No, not going to happen.
No.
I loved it. What did you guys think of this?
I liked it a lot. I really liked the scenes between Storm and Shuri. That was it was very believable by people who, sometimes when there's a divorce, the strongest relationships are maintained not with the person you divorced, but some of their outer family, and I don't think that's uncommon. And that was a really nice extension of that. I really like the scenes, both with her and the Queen Mother. I like that entire sequence. And I also like that even with the interpersonal relationships, it still was a very superhero-y issue. With Storm doing what she needed to do. And I just, you forget sometimes because the roles that she's put in, very often as a leader or a voice of reason, she's still a badass, and and this issue showed that in full view. And I really like this issue. I really did.
David, again, thank you so much.
Vita is non-binary. Okay,
they're non-binary, so that's really good to know.
I mentioned that because I could have. She was on. They were on the panel for 10 of Swords. That was part of New York Comic Con, and I could have sworn that they were using the she tag. So sorry about that.
And they might do both. They might do both. So the only thing I will say, and I don't know if it shows up well on the camera here, the artwork is sometimes a little weird. The facial expressions,
sometimes,
particularly Kate and Storm, and they're just a little. The smiles are a little creepy. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna sing all of its praises here.
Yes, but in that same sequence of pages, there's that picture with the crazy smiles.
Yes. Thank you.
One thing that I did enjoy is on the borders of those pages, if you have the main book, or I think digitally you can pan out as well. It's the history of Storm in just wordless panels. You get to see her birth, her her being the goddess on the plains, and then of course becoming part of the X-Men and teaching and all that stuff. It's just really cool. And then also who was the artist on this one? Matteo Lolli. And then a really cool thing for Corey Pettit, who is the letterer on this one. Let me see if I can find my favorite, just goofy panel. When Storm is breaking into the vault to steal the sword, she incurs the wrath of apparently Protector Panther droids or robots, and they come to life with a whir, which I just thought was just wonderful.
Those like Hound Panther robots they look amazing. They're so cool.
Yeah.
I was very excited by that. So yeah, obviously things don't go well. Storm. I did want to mention Storm's outfit change from her regal sort of dress whites to her secret, because she was a thief. I mean, when she came up in Egypt, she was a thief when she was discovered. So I mean, she has this background as being this sort of ninja like thief. So she puts on the black outfit to go out and steal Stormbreaker. So I love that. Yeah, it was good. It's a good issue. So that's not. We're going to talk about a few of these. So I think that all of us liked it, right? We're all on the same page.
Yeah, I think we all liked it. Yeah.
So it was well done.
So that was by we talked about the writer and artist. Then we get Wolverine number 6 from Ben Percy and Bogdanovic. Who's the artist?
Bogdanovich.
What's Victor? Is that their name?
Victor Bogdanovich. Yeah.
It sounds
That's
like
the name
the director Bogdanovich, right? Is that Victor? I don't know.
Yeah, it's Victor with a K. Yeah, Victor
perfect.
Bogdanovich. Yeah.
So this is actually a 2-part story. It goes between Wolverine and X-Force number 13, and they're the same team. So it's a very seamless 2-part story. So this is where we were talking about if you you're only picking certain books because of whatever. These are 2 you want to get together or skip. But I think you should get them, and here's why. You get the introduction of this really neat new character from Araco, who's called Solem, and he's like this sexually not ambiguous, but sexually
fluid, maybe. Languid.
Bill, you're muted.
I don't know about fluid.
Oh, you're good now. You're good.
Am I? Because I can't see you. Hold on. I'll be back in a second. I just got to put my password in.
Talk amongst yourself.
I would not necessarily say fluid, but hypersexualized.
Oh,
yeah.
I would say that they are all about the sex.
So Solem is this assassin, like warrior character who somehow has done some bad stuff in Araco and is being punished in this pit. And if they set it up like, they're being just punished, it's horrible fate
for 100 years.
For 100 years.
100 years in a season.
They get down there, and it's like Orpheus in the underworld kind of situation, and he's sitting there, but he's like charmed all of the terrible things. To
what was in the back material? What did they say? What did they say about him? He could charm a mountain. He could charm a mountain and have the mountain give them all their trees,
or something like that.
Yeah, it's a really clever line. Yeah,
like the whole reason, and they explain it kind of briefly. Obviously, they implied it in the conversation between Solomon and War. But it was he had potentially seduced War's husband, and then got tired of him, and so War's husband decided to fight for his honor, and he ended up dying because Solomon was a much better killer, or because they don't make it very clear, or Solomon was pissed off because War wouldn't give him the time of day. And she apparently is the only one who wouldn't. So he took it out on her husband and basically ended up killing him. And that's why he's been in chains this whole time, basically being coddled and weighted on hand and foot. So what a punishment. And of course, he could have broken the chains at any time because that's what he ends up doing. He's like, I'll go and get the sword.
Yeah. So basically now the way this is all set up is there are these swords, these 10 swords. And every Araco and every Krakoa, like they have these, like I guess they have to sometimes share or they have to fight for the sword, which is a little unclear because in this case, there's only one Muramasa blade or sword that Wolverine has had in the past, and this is kind of goes into some of his backstory a little bit. But through the hijinks of the story, I guess Muramasa is in hell because that's the best forge. and Hand is involved, and it's
but
all
yeah, like zombie Hand. It was
zombie
weird.
Hand
Like the zombie
worshiping
Hand,
the
that was weird.
beast, and so in other words, so through all that hijinks, and Solem comes down, and sort of Wolverine and Solem have to team up to like get out of hell and figure things out, but then they get up to the point where there's only one sword, and surprise, there's another sword now. So it's like there's these duality of blades between Wolverine and Solem. So they both get a blade, they both get a sword, they get to go off and have their epic duel. But their relationship that they develop, and this is the only thing with this story, there are lines that Wolverine says, and I got to go back and find one of the examples that don't really sound like the Wolverine that I'm used to like reading. Like they're a little too young in the sort of like the way people speak now, and Wolverine's such an old character. I just don't buy it as much, but
yeah,
it's still
and
fun, the relationship.
I was also thrown by Wolverine throwing in the Batman Herm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a little thrown by that. But
there were no bubs.
Apart from those,
I
I totally agree with you, Bryan, that there were some characterizations on Wolverine's part that were a little that felt a little out of place. But in terms of the story, I thought it was both issues. I thought were like remarkably well paced, really well done. I think the Solem character has legs. I think you're definitely going to see him again and again. And just not necessarily a villain, but God, an antagonist charmer. Like even you can see even Wolverine was getting sucked in.
Yeah.
To it. I also like that they like set up this big battle with him and Silver Samurai, and then they were just like, forget it.
Yeah.
Dad, just tell me what I need to know.
Yeah.
So very interesting choice, and this goes back to the Wolverine issue. So part 3, there's a sequence where Wolverine goes back to Japan to try and find Muramasa, who's the sword maker, and there's this sequence where he's just basically, it's just kind of a bunch of images of him encountering different people having a fight. There's Mariko down at the bottom, his former wife.
Almost a counterpart to what you said about Storm.
Yeah, exactly. He's kind of, old home week. He's going back, retracing his steps in Japan. The interesting thing is, we're just getting a sort of an internal dialogue here. So we don't know exactly what's happening. We're just kind of seeing he's having these encounters. However, Percy makes the interesting choice, or Hickman makes the interesting choice of putting the description in prose of what those encounters were and what happened in those encounters with the dialogue. So you actually get the dialogue that wasn't on the page for each of those sequences, but just sort of as a prose form, or as a particular person or a particular character from that encounter speaking, and their monologue, which is very interesting. I thought that was an interesting touch, and it just kind of this new Hickman era of X-Men. I think there's a lot of encouragement of that kind of out of the box storytelling when it comes to traditional X-Men comics. Like, we're not used to that kind of thing. It's either it's right on the page with the with the images, the Claremont way of telling the story, versus what Hickman wants, which is, there's a lot of non-art, there's a lot of prose. There's
it's
just
I like
here's a page.
Because it gives a sort of not choose your own adventure exactly, but choose your own depth of detail sort of path.
Yep.
So if you don't care about all of that drama and story, you don't have to read them. In fact, I'll be quite honest, there are many, many times where I look at what it's about, and Excalibur was really bad with this. I would start and go, nope, no, I don't need to read this. That's okay, I'm fine. Because it just didn't matter to me to go into that depth. It's kind of like when you play an RPG online or wherever, video game, any kind. But RPGs are, MMORPGs especially. And you're doing the quests, and you hit like that lore, like description and story, and you're just like,
you just keep hitting the button.
Don't care. But then other times you go, oh, actually, I'm interested in this storyline. I want to know more. Let me deep dive. So I like that. I like that a lot. So yeah,
exactly
the Muramasa stuff is really solid. That's all that Steve and I read. I know, Bill, you went a little further.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can hold off on that till you guys get caught up. But there was an issue of Marauders, which is basically the Marauders team behind Mr. Sinister going into what the hell's the name of the
Araco.
Araco, to steal swords. So that story is to be continued, and we see, characters from other areas of the Marvel universe, such as Jamie Braddock, Captain Britain's brother, who was king in Avalon. There was a really good issue of New Mutants. One of the swords is Warlock. So you have Doug learning how to become a swordsman, mostly through magic. And Cable has the Galore sword. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It's from the Space Knights, but there's also a complication. And again, the issue is focused between Cable. I almost said Caleb. Cable and Jean and Scott being on a starship and finding out why everyone is basically dead.
I'm very excited for that storyline.
Yeah.
They started it in one of the earlier books, and it's like father, son, and mother adventure. Like it's.
And I'm trying to think what the other one I read was. Is it Hellions?
Yeah,
Hellions
I think
Storm.
Hellions.
Did another Hellions come out? Oh no, that was Marauders.
No,
that was Marauders.
Storm was Marauders. There was a Hellions.
Oh, so it was Hellions. So Hellions was the Mr. Sinister. So sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now I know I get the rep of not being the X-Men fan. I just want to show you guys something here. Over here, this is my trusty box of to read comics. Now I'm not going to be reading all of these soon because look at it. But in the front you have DC, it's separated, and then more DC, and then a bunch of independents. I just want to show you guys out of recent back issues I've bought. Let me just get to this stack. See that healthy stack? It's all X books. That's all X books. So I do like the X-Men.
we believe you.
And I've been going to a back issue shop that's in the next town over, and they have 50-cent bins, effectively, and a good opportunity to fill in some of the gaps because my X-Men stuff goes to the late 80s, and then it gets a little spotty. So I've been filling in some blanks.
Awesome.
So I did have another book that I wanted to talk about besides just the X books.
Mm-hmm.
I did finally get my copy after we talked about it like a week or two ago of Be Gay Do Comics from IDW. And
I got my issue.
I don't have a copy because I'm not gay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, let me just say, I think this is brilliant and beautiful, and I'm so happy it exists. It should sit right next to your copy of No Straight Lines. It is exactly what, when I talked to Justin Hall a couple weeks ago for Flame On, like it is exactly what we talked about having, No Straight Lines kind of ends at a certain era. This, which I talked to Justin yesterday, and he said that a lot of his students were involved in this because he teaches at SoCal Arts. It's cartooning and storytelling, visual storytelling, and a lot of his students have participated in this. But it is a treasure trove. It is an anthology. I'm not going to try to go through and tell you all of the amazing creators in here and all of the things that is amazing. But what I will say is just people who you may know of. Sasha Velour from RuPaul's Drag Race, who has also done comics work and did a piece for Queer. With the threes, that came out a while back, anthology. She has a piece in here. It's pretty small. It's a one-pager. It's nothing crazy. But there's so much good trans cartooning in this. A lot of it's like short, but some of it's a little longer in form. There's also some really good international perspective that I liked, and historical. Which the historical you get, throughout, other anthologies. That's not so much new, but the trans the trans section alone, it almost deserves its own anthology. I'm sure sometime, if not already, that I just don't know about, we'll have one. But It was lovely and enlightening and just so cool. And I want to check out more. Steve, what the Nib is that? That's a web comic or
It's a website, and you know, it's funny. Like some of the comics that have been collected in this anthology, I've seen before, with people linking to the Nib, and you know, they continue to publish a lot of these comics, and a lot of it's, you know, social commentary, personal commentary. There's some political commentary. You know, identity itself is political sometimes. So, you know, it's a very interesting group of collaborators, I think, that are.
It's a lot of younger creators. They actually go through in the back, and I mean younger in the industry. I don't mean necessarily younger in age. You get little bios for each of them, and actually, this is going to become my as I find interview candidates for Flame On and potentially our Comic Bears. These are great choices. A lot of them are
just go through
on
the list. Check.
It's kind of already what I'm doing with No Straight Lines, but I mean, you know, add to this.
Yeah.
The styles of the art, it varies from very cartoony on that, you know, Scott McCloud scale rather, to like a little more you know, not photorealistic, but a little more like, you know, realistic. Again, varies in length, but subject matter, a lot of autobio, a lot of, like you said, satire, a lot of little political comedy, some history, some like really cool like Stonewall and other gay history stuff that I really enjoy. So yeah. I think it was like $20, not even, no, 25. And it came with, and I don't know if this was like more or not, I forgot. It came with an enamel pin, which I totally can't focus in on. B-Gage Comics, which I love. As you may be able to notice behind me here, that is my Enamel Pin Collection, and it's not even all of them.
Your pin board.
So yeah, go check it out. They did a Kickstarter for it, I believe, but it's available through whatever. Oh, I'm sorry, no, it was Kickstarter. It was IDW. But you can get it online still. It's still in print. Yeah, the Nib, excellent. And I'm gonna go check their website out and try to remember to, you know, dial in there occasionally and see what's new, because it's just a treasure.
Okay, cool. I just pulled out some X-Men books. Just to show you, this is for the fun stuff here. This is X-Men Adventures number 4, season 3, when they had a tie-in comic with the TV series, and this is the TV version of the Birth of the Phoenix. That's cool. And here's X-Men number 13, which was the last Jim Lee X-Men issue. This is an issue of Marvel Fanfare, which is an X Factor story. So if you're an X Factor completist, you might want to get this. Here's a book of the Toys R Us limited edition of X-Men, where you see Chuck has a Sentinel and he's betrayed the X-Men in Toys R Us.
Wow.
And then I'm sure you guys can appreciate this. I have polybagged issues of Executioner's Song, the X Factor issues with the
multiple multiple copies of those where it was the stupid. I was a kid and I was like, oh well, I gotta buy a couple copies. I gotta buy one that I keep in the bag and one that I open to read.
Of course, we all did that.
And the card.
Well, because you have the card.
Yeah.
So you can take the card out, or you can keep it in the bag. But you know, if it's open, forget it. It's not worth as much anymore.
About 10 years ago, in a quarter bin, I was able to get like all of the variants of X-Force number 1, all the cards. So that was like $1.25. There's, I think, 5 different cards. Can you imagine how much that cost back then? 91, if you didn't get it from the first shot, because for a bit that was
over $10,000 in today's money.
Yeah. I'm going to switch gears though. I'm going over to DC from Marvel, and the book I want to talk about is Hawkman number 27.
Woo!
You can see that it's been one of the really consistent DC titles. Starting with Venditti, they're on their 27th issue. I believe they're going to issue 30. Is that right? I think it goes to 30 and then it ends. The artist in this book is, I forgot the gentleman's first name. but his last name's Passerin. I'm not finding it here. That's credits for another book there. Where are you? It might be the Fernando Passerin. Now, you guys know that I'm not an original art collector because I don't have any wall space. This is all the wall space. I don't have any wall space, and it's a rabbit hole I'm scared to go down. But I would gladly accept any page in this issue. And as you can see from the pages that I'm showing here, it's the Hawkman and Hawkgirl reuniting with the Justice Society of America. Yeah, so we have a new Justice Society story. You can see the lineup there with Wildcat and Flash and Sandman. And my favorite villain of all time is in here, Vandal Savage, doing his thing with a sword and going after Shira. And this establishes the issue is called Old Friends, Fresh Wounds. And if you've been following Hawkman, it's been this journey for Carter, and to some degree, Shira as well, of his various previous lives. And, the concept that he's not necessarily just bound to Earth as well. We've seen Naturally Thanagar, but we've also seen a Hawkman on Krypton. And so, without spoiling too much, there's something in Hawkman's past that he has to atone for, and he's basically there. If he needs to, by his line of thinking, he has to keep reincarnating until he saves enough lives that it makes a difference. I hope I'm not spoiling that. Because it's a nice twist how they address this, and so we are in a situation where Carter and Shira are now going through this journey together through time, and one of their favorite periods of all time was when they were with their friends in the Justice Society in the 40s. So that's what this story is about. Interesting twist that they have. They look at each other how they initially knew each other, but how other people see them physically is different. So it was a really nice way of introducing that with a mirror, because you see Carter and he's got blonde hair, and as the series has gone along, he's been a brunette. You get an understanding in a really, really cool fashion just by that visual. It's the first of a 4-part series where they are going to contend with their old villain Hafset. The second issue, number 28, is already out, but that's more along the lines of it's less of a done in one than this one is. But again, with this fantastic art, George Perez, Paul Pelletier, artists like that, Phil Jimenez, they come to mind with this gentleman's work. With this gentleman's work. And of course you have, for us boys, you have shirtless Hawkman. That's always good. So I
his outfit is a harness.
If you dig the Justice Society, and especially if you dig the Justice Society of the 40s, for a nice little done in one, you should get to this Hawkman number 27. Okay, Bryan, you're still reading Hawkman, right? No,
I am.
Well,
I'm really far behind.
Here's the thing. When I moved, I dropped everything, right? So it's been a matter of just going back and finding ones that I was like, oh yeah, I really want to read that. I can't even tell you the last time I read any DC books, and that's the sad thing. I think the last one I read was actually, it was Death Metal 1. That was the last time I read a DC book, and I need to catch up, but I just haven't.
Well, in the next few months, you will also have the ability to have access to the successor of DC Universe and DC Universe Infinite.
I think that's what it's DCU Infinite.
And they're going to up their time period, with the lag from a release date to appearing on that platform had been a year. It's now going to be 6 months.
Yeah.
So that might be a good time for you, Bryan, to jump on. We didn't do the t-shirt thing, so let's do the t-shirt thing. We'll start with Steve. What are you wearing?
Well, speaking of DC, I have the DC as kids saying, "No, sorry, Captain America, you can't come in our treehouse." So we've got little cheeky Wonder Woman. We've got, I guess this is one of the Green Lanterns, and then Batman, of course, Green Arrow, Superman, and the Flash.
Okay, nice. Bryan, what about you?
So I'm going to stand up a little bit more because that artwork
Nice.
is pretty sick. So if you're not familiar,
Nice.
Stone Brewing has this stout that they do every year, although this year I think it was a limited release. Normally it's everywhere, called Woot Stout. And it's got Will Wheaton, one of the guys from Stone, and one of the guys who created FARC, the website from back 10 plus years ago. And it's a great beer. I've had it many times in cans, and I've had many times in San Diego when I go to visit for work, and it is outstanding. And this is one of my favorite of their shirts. And it is stout season. It is the malt fans, which I am a malt person. It is our time of the year now with all of the Oktoberfests and spice ales and all this other crap. So very excited.
Enjoy your malts.
Very cool. My shirt, I'm going to have to stand up for this too. This is a reproduction of a Black Sabbath tour shirt from their tour in 1978. So you can see that. Ozzy, Geezer, Tony, and Bill Ward. And I got a trivia question for you. Their World Tour 78. Do you guys know who the opening act was for that tour? Kind of in the news. Supporting their first album, it was Van Halen.
Van Halen, really?
Wow.
So what a double bill that would have been, Black Sabbath and Van Halen. Especially behind that first album, yeah. All right. Well, we're doing really good on time. Anything you guys want to hit before we hit the Wuss of the Week?
Politics. Let's talk politics.
Let's just talk politics. No. No.
So I was actually thinking about this, Bill. Do you remember back in 2016, I think we did the special episode after the debate with Carl?
With Carl Frisch. No, I absolutely probably one of my top 5 favorite podcasting experiences.
There is
even though we were talking about a really shitty topic.
Well, there is one more debate coming up, but we hope, or we think maybe, between Biden and Trump. I mean, I could call Carl. I know he's kind of a bigwig with the Fairfax County School Board right now, so I don't know if he's available, but I'm just saying.
Well, I know that there was supposed to be a debate tonight, but it is just competing town halls on NBC and ABC, which are now done, I believe.
Yeah, Biden's finished at 9:30. Trump's finished at 9. I did watch before we got on the first hour of Biden's, and there were a couple of answers that were a little rambling, but I really did appreciate how engaged he was with the town hall subjects asking questions, which did include Democrats, Republicans, Independents, and the mythical undecideds. As far as I'm concerned, there's no undecideds. These are just people who want to be on television.
Yeah.
Seriously, if you have not made your mind up at this point, a Martian could make up their mind.
I read that some undecideds are really just closet Trump supporters. They just don't want to talk about it or admit it, so they'll kind of be I'm undecided.
Yeah, that sounds like
I'm not shocked about Biden's performance, because even if he does have sort of rambliness, some misspeaking. I guess during one of the things tonight he said when people decide to become transgender, or he said something that was awkward about transgender. But it's like the Amy Coney Barrett thing with sexual preference. It's like the only reason that we care that they have said these misspoke, whatever, is because of their record. It goes to the context of what they believe. So the fact that Biden may have said sexual preference or become transgender doesn't fucking matter, because we know
what his intention is.
Exactly. Yeah. But
for God's sake, there's a very big there's a chasm of different intention there between Amy COVID and
COVID.
and
and
Biden.
Amy COVID is nice. I like that.
If you're going to be outraged by that, honey,
right,
honey, Please.
But I have conservative friends, still, believe it or not, who on Facebook are making this whole thing about how the media isn't focusing on Biden's misspeaking, but they're focusing on Amy Coney Barrett's misspeak. And it's like that is a thing to them. That matters in some weird way. And it's like, look, it's context. It doesn't matter when you misspeak and your intentions are still well known. I mean, there's a voting record for Biden that you can go back. And yeah, he's not always been on the right side, but he is in the last 20 years. And that's what matters, right?
And of course, you're looking at you're definitely trying to compare apples to oranges because you've got somebody running for presidential office who's being voted in by people, electoral college.
I really loved that interview with Joe Biden. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, like, versus somebody who's basically being appointed for the rest of their lives, which could be for the next 40 years, that they're in that unvoted, they're not voted on by anybody in any respect other than the Senate, which is they're just going to rubber stamp it. I mean, she is going to be the next justice. So it's kind of like you want to know what she thinks because it's going to affect all policy decisions, and the legality of policy decisions and laws and whatever for the next 40 years, unless she resigns or dies. I mean, those are the only two ways that she's going to be out of that position. Whereas as president, you only have 4 to 8 years. That's it. Sometimes less, but it's just kind of like, I think if she misspeaks or doesn't speak about something that's important, it does matter, and it matters quite a bit. So, but we'll have the next 40 years to figure out what she actually intends for anything.
As you mentioned about races, the difference between races and lifetime appointments. Did you guys see the statement from Gary Peters, senator from Michigan, about his wife's abortion?
No,
and the horrible circumstances. Basically, she broke her word, I think at the 4th month, and the fetus was going to die from the lack of amniotic fluid, and just the horrible state that they were in about making that decision. And this is someone who is in a very close race in Michigan. I don't usually associate the word bravery with politicians. But I think in this case, to make a very strong point about the need for the need for women maintaining control of their bodies, it was very, very effective. And he's in a very tight Senate race, and it was something I was very moved by. In terms of clips, you might want to search that out.
Interesting.
Yeah, and also Dick Durbin talking about the line of questioning with Amy COVID, Bryan, and she's going to be Amy COVID from now on for me. He basically said at this point, you could ask her, what's your position on gravity, and she'd punt. He was far more eloquent at it than I would be, but do search that out. It's even under these stressful times, we do get nuggets of quotes and of statements that will last well beyond the current controversy.
Yeah, and did you see Chris Christie's latest? So now that he's recovered, he's like pulling away from Trump and being like, no one should take this carelessly. I should have worn a mask. I was wrong. We are not treating Americans like adults. Like, I mean, for what it's worth, he's still a fucking piece of
still
shit.
Chris Christie. Yeah.
He's still Chris Christie, but like,
Christie.
I just
after 7 days in an ICU, apparently you can change your mind about things.
I'd rather not have done that. Yeah,
I'd rather not a good idea. It wasn't a good idea.
And some of these lingering effects of COVID. I mean, did you read about Alyssa Milano? She has continuing hair loss. She has, she's still in trouble breathing. What is she, like 100 pounds in a feather, and she's on a BiPAP to sleep at night? It's really, some of these lingering effects. It sounds horrible. Yeah, absolutely horrible.
Don't want it. Don't want to risk it.
Don't want it. Stay away. Keep your distance, people.
And that's another. I mean, I posted this earlier in the week on my page, but it does get me that, there's people I see that are even in more high risk categories than I am, and they're being pretty loose with some of the restriction. And it's like, the dick is going to be there in 2021. Really, it's going to be there.
Did you see Atlanta? Like the
oh my God, the doctor. That guy pointed out his doctor was at it. Yeah.
But so the doctor is one thing, but that picture, that whole like club was packed. It's like a traditional, like you would not have known that there was any pandemic happening whatsoever with that picture. It looked like classic bear stew soup, breast meat, whatever you want to call it.
Meat.
And then
loose meat sandwich.
So Varla Jean Merman's husband, who is this, nicer and kind of muscular older gentleman, older than Varla. Like they're like out hanging out with no masks, and he said something like, "Don't judge, not going to apologize, happy to be free to party," or something. I'm just like, anyway, I can't even. I know people are tired of it. I know everyone's tired. I mean, we've been in Seattle for 7 months, 8 months, however long it's been now. I've lost track. And there's so many places that we're like, oh my God, we really want to go there. We want to eat dinner there. We want to go out to the clubs. I mean, we went to one gay bar. We went to the Eagle here. That was the only gay bar we've been to before the pandemic. And it's like, even if they're open, even if it's like tempting, we're like, no.
We have the temptation here starting, I guess, tomorrow in North Carolina because movie theaters are opening again. And, they're sold out, by the way, at least a week out. Every show is sold out. So, but the fact that I went and I looked at it is just sort of like, I know I will not go to a movie theater.
Well, they pushed all those movies back. Like Dune was the one we've talked about it. Like we were like
next year now.
Not until like almost the end of next year. It's way out. And
then
some of the ones they're pushing to Disney Plus. What did they push to Disney Plus? I forgot.
The Pixar film.
Yeah, the Soul.
Soul got
I think it's Soul.
Pixar. And then everybody freaks out because some suit at Disney said, about their commitment to streaming. There's going to be movie theaters. It just might take a while. I'm just worried about Wonder Woman. That's going to be my real test. Because for us, movie theaters have been open here in Jersey for a few weeks now. Because again, we've been, we had the horrible situation at the beginning, but our numbers have been very good. All things considered, compared to other parts of the country. So we did meet thresholds to open indoor dining to a certain degree, and things like that. I'm not touching indoor dining until
never. No,
that's not happening for me.
We've only just started, doing takeout at places. I mean, we literally for 6 months we did not do takeout at all anywhere. Like it was like nothing. And then finally, I think we did like one Indian thing, and then on my birthday I got sushi, and we picked up stuff at Mountain Fried Chicken, and that was it. And now we are doing it
once every 3 weeks since it started, maybe. And some of that was to support some of the local businesses.
Yeah.
Because the McDonald's and the Chili's, they'll be fine. No, seriously, right. There may not be as many of them, but they'll weather the storm. It's just so, oh God, it could have been so different. It could have been so different. And that there are people that can't recognize that. Oh,
it's heartbreaking, because I used to be so optimistic about humanity. I was one of those, like, just every time bad things would happen, I'd be like, well, that's an isolated incident. People are smart. People care about each other. The world will get better, and da-da-da-da. In the last year, actually probably since Trump got in, really, I think really it's been about 4 years, let's just say. Like, every positive inclination and belief I had about humanity is just gone. Just completely gone.
Well, I have to say, though, that there were flashes of that with the Tea Party for me, where I was like, really? That's the way you're going to live your life? But yeah, it just this, and I don't want to speak for the world. America is its own distinct kind of nonsense.
True.
But there definitely are parts of the world where this the swing to the right has happened as well and caused major problems. I just wish, more than anything, I think the way to characterize it, I just wish we'd grow up as a world.
Amen.
It's just grow up. No one likes fabric on their face. As a thing, I have to take it off, to breathe after points.
Yeah.
But Jesus, what's the alternative? It's not like we're walking around with our leg in a bear trap. Walking into,
Well,
Jesus.
I talked about this with
federally mandated bear trap.
Yeah.
We are in a situation where we're going through a pandemic that is absolutely not as deadly as it could have been, as others have been, and yet we're having such a hard time managing, and maybe it's because of that, but I think it's just humanity, or I'll say specifically the United States. I won't even say America, because Canada's got that a little better up there in the North American sphere, but the United States, our citizens are on the whole really bad at this kind of thing, and it's this whole we have to have personal liberty, and we can't do anything for our fellow society if we're told to. But you should do it because you want to. Bullshit, it won't happen. People are selfish and they don't care, and it sucks. It really sucks, and it's heartbreaking. But
well, the fact that we're no better as a society in this kind of thing than we were 100 years ago, literally, the exact same things were put into place 100 years ago. Some even looser restrictions, and we still had people like pounding the pavement with signs and making fun of people for wearing masks and saying, well, if I'm a true patriot, I'm not going to get sick. That's all just gobbledygook, whatever. It's it only affects other people, not us, because we're true patriots. And people,
or I'm covered in Jesus' blood.
I'm covered in Jesus' blood.
Not hygienic at all.
Well, if you
well, that was fun.
Yeah, great.
That's good.
I also like your line. I was going to interject when you said, it's like, we just need to grow up. Anyway, let's look at some more comics.
Yeah, right.
Some more comics. Okay. All right. Well, we're going to wrap this episode up, and it's going to be on a much more positive tone than we provided for the last 7 or so minutes. So when we do wrap an episode of the Comic Book Bears podcast up, we do so with a segment we call the Woofs of the Week segment. In the bear community, if you find a fella attractive, you tend to woof them. And we do a counterpart here. So this is where we signify something which may be a comic book, but it also may be a film or a TV show or a charitable initiative, anything under the sun that we think you, fair listener or viewer, may be interested in sampling. I'll start, as I always do, with Steve. Steve, what is your Woof of the Week?
I got a really quick one, and that is Star Trek Discovery is back as of today. Season 3, CBS All Access, which will soon be, I guess, was it Paramount Plus or something? I don't know. But whatever it's going to become. Star Trek Discovery Season 3 starts off with a bang. It's in the future. Nobody can say crap about that's not canon. Meh, means nothing because now you're 900 years in the future and there's nothing about it that you know anything about. So it's all new. And it's beautiful. The effects were amazing. The acting's great. The characters are brilliant. Wonderful, alien species cameos that we haven't seen for a long time. The Andorans, the Orions, all that. Love it. It was awesome. Great first episode. But what I'm also talking about today as my woof is Trixie and Katya's Guide to Modern Womanhood. Now, we're all ladies here. Sometimes we need a helping hand. And Trixie and Katya are giving us that hand. Or that little, helping reach around. And it's put out by Penguin Random House. It is kind of pricey. It's $26 right now, or possibly less, depending on your whatever book discount places you can get. But it is hilarious. If you're a fan of or a fan of Trixie and Katya, or Trixie or Katya, or whatever, this is great. It is like reading an episode of and it is so fun. You can read it. They write different articles, different essays about self-care, about appearance and mental health, and just all sorts of things. Food. I mean, it's just wonderful. And of course, the pictures are great. If you're a fan of drag, they go all out. And these guys are, or these ladies, these skinny legends are just amazing. But I laughed out loud every single page. They're funny. It's just one zinger after another, and you can definitely hear their voices when you read this. So, Trixie and Katya's Guide to Modern Womanhood. Even if you're not a drag fan and may not know who they are, pick it up. You will laugh yourself silly.
All right, moving over to Bryan. Bryan, what is your wolf of the week?
I am very excited to talk and tell you that my boyfriend's new book came out. So I will take this opportunity to do a little screen share because we haven't done one this episode. This is part 2 of the House of Otter series, of which I believe there will be 3 parts. So this is the moment in the story when things for our fair Alexander get a little more complicated, but as it is erotica, BDSM-ish, elements. Erotica, it is still sexy and fun, and it's actually delightful. There's some stuff that it's funny when you read someone who some of their life comes into play, and just different things about the story that the turns it takes is really fun. So it's a quick read. It's like a novella. So people who have short attention spans, trust me, this thing you'll burn through it. It's a real page turner, and you'll be done in no time. And then you'll have to wait like the rest of us for the 3rd volume, which hopefully will come out in the next couple months too. So House of Otter, Taming Alexander is the second one. And you can get both together, I think, for like $6 total on Kindle. So it's nothing. So anyway, check it out on Amazon Kindle.
Yay.
Okay. Steve, I apologize because I changed my wolf of the week in midstream. And that's why I got up while you were talking about Penultimateman. So
Okay.
I got some toys in the mail.
Uh-oh, what kind?
And not those kind of toys.
Oh, we know you, Bill. We know what kind of toys they are.
Yeah. So I've talked before on the show about the importance of the Super Friends and also of the Mego figures that came out in the 70s when I was a kid, in terms of locking me as a comic book fan. Mego 3 years ago was reconstituted as a company. So I'm holding in my hand the first 8-inch Mego figures in 43 years.
Those are so cool.
Yes. Cool. So as of right now, the only retail outlet you can buy them is a chain in the Midwest, supermarket chain called Myers. Myers.
Myers. Yeah, okay. Myers.
Myers. Okay. That's okay. Myers. So I would like to thank John and Laura Westhoff for picking these up for me. I got the 3 that have come out from the DC universe: Wonder Woman, Batman, and of course my guy Superman. So it was the first time in 43 years I have new 8-inch Megos. I'm so happy. I really am. It's like wonderful. If you're asking why there's no Marvel, they've never been able to work out a license where the figures wouldn't cost $80. So hopefully things will change. And at this point, I think Mego itself is on its 8th wave of new figures. So good to see a company, like the Phoenix rise from the ashes and come back. Again, now we have this. We now have this terrain where collectible toys are a big thing in some ways. With companies like Funko, outselling major toy lines. Adult toys that aren't adult toys.
Well, 2 questions.
Those 2 in the other room. Yeah.
There's a cape involved, possibly. I did have 2 questions about that.
Yes,
one, do they come with any accessories?
Yes. Wonder Woman has a lasso.
Woo-hoo.
Batman, of course, has a batarang, and Superman has a piece of kryptonite. Because,
of course, why wouldn't he have kryptonite?
Well, to give it to Batman in case something happens.
Here you go.
In
Here's
case
your
shit hits the fan.
doomsday scenario.
The next wave is going to be Flash, Green Lantern, which is most likely to be John Stewart Green Lantern, and the Riddler. For the
Nice.
8-inch figures. I just, even though we've had Remigos from Mattel had a line, and of course the Figures Toy Company, seeing the Mego on the package is just pretty cool. So,
is there a place, because Mego, of course, has a really big place in toy history, especially collectible toy history. Is there a place where people who are watching this might be able to, or listening, might be able to go to find out more about the history of Mego?
Yes, there is a website called megomuseum.com. And it's a really bad rabbit hole you can fall down, and not just the world's greatest superheroes, but all their other lines like the Micronauts and oh god, they had so many, Kiss, the Black Hole, Star Trek. The Captain and Tennille, they had the Waltons had a toy line. The Waltons had a toy line in the 70s. So you can go down through that, and they also have portals to look at the new stuff. And what's also known as Remigo, which is, with the 8-inch base body, that's public domain now. So basically anybody can make a Mego-like figure. And the term Remigo has found more acceptance than Mego-like. So, but there are resources. The company website is just informational. There's not a lot there. But beyond Mayors, there are some outlets where you can buy toys like this online now, like Entertainment Earth and Big Bad Toy Store. So you can find this stuff. Yep. All right. Well, we're going to wrap this one up for good now. Again, we are the Comic Book Bears podcast. You can find us on the Twitter and the Tumblr and the Instagram as Comic Book Bears. You can find us on the Facebook as Comic Book Bears Podcast. If you want to write to us, you can do so by sending an email to comicbookbears@gmail.com. If you want to listen to us, please do so by downloading us on iTunes. Leave a review if you do. If you're liking what you're hearing, you can listen to us on Stitcher Radio and some of the other podcatching platforms. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel and leave a comment if you're liking what you're seeing, because we do want to expand our profile on this platform as well. So until next time, I'm Bill Zanowitz.
I'm Brian Pittard.
And I'm Steve Morey.
If you're listening, you're going to hear a woof and an explosion. We'll be back real soon. Take care, everyone.
Bye.